What's up, guys? Welcome to the channel. Today I wanted to do a quick video on a Boss RT3 wiring kit and basically just show you how I wired it up and how I mounted the plow mount as well, which is an RT3 Boss plow mount, and then I'm going to go over how to unhook and hook up the plow. So for starters, I just hooked this plow up. I was going to do a video just on the wiring, but I've had so many people ask me that I'm about the full process of it that I'm actually just going to go through the whole thing. So for starters, I started obviously on the lower side with the mount. And what I did there is obviously I have the correct mount for the truck. So this is going to be an 04 2500 RT3 mount. And if you can see in there, that new hardware. So I got some grade A bolts, and I went with these 1/2 inch grade 8 hex heads. And I actually, for the front bolts, I got a 5.5 inch up there. And that fits all the way across, as you can see. 2 lock washers and Loctite, or you can use these lock nuts. Either one works. I actually used both. I used the lock nuts and these 1.5 inch bolts on the lower part of the mount, and on the upper part I used 2 lock washers and some red Loctite. Blue Loctite will probably work too. Either way, just for added safety. So yeah, basically all I did there was make sure you got the right mount for your truck. They're not all the same, so you got to have your proper mount. And then we're gonna come under here, and it is mounted in the back as well, as you can see, to the cross member. There I have a large washer, and then these grade 8 1.5 inch. And those are actually up in the cross member frame, as you can see the nut on the other side there. So that's all I did to mount it. Like I said, 5.5 inch bolts up front, up in there, and 1.5 inch grade 8 1/2 inch bolts for both sides. Just the length is going to change because obviously you need 1.5 inches. An inch probably would work. I went with 1.5 inches just to be safe on that one, and on the other side there all the way underneath. But the main one up front, 5.5 inches. So once you got that going and you got your plow mount actually on the truck, if you are like me, you bought a brand new wiring harness. The reason I did that is I saw this plow function before I bought it, and I did buy it with a harness, but I didn't see the harness function with the plow. The guy had a different harness to test run this plow for me, so I just went ahead and bought a Boss RT3 plow kit, the whole wiring kit. It comes with everything, literally comes with everything for it. And you're gonna get it, and it's gonna be a big giant mess of spider webs, but it's actually very simple to hook up if you just take your time and don't panic. The first thing you'll need to do is obviously run your power and ground for the plow somehow through here. Some guys come underneath after they've cut the valance. Sometimes they'll cut the middle and or punch a hole in the middle and run them all the way down. I decided to punch a hole in the grill. This truck has 300,000 miles on it, so it is what it is, and we ran them both through there. So that's your 13 pin to your plow, and this is your ground, and that's your power. So that, just hang that off the front. That's gonna be the first thing you need to do. Next, I came up here, and this looks like a rat's nest because I have it all zip tied up and out of the way now, but I kind of looped it in like this just so it would all be on one side, all very accessible. I did not use the factory bracket that they send with you because it mounts to the firewall way back here, and I'm a short guy, and I don't like climbing all the way back there in these trucks, so I actually fabbed up a few brackets So that is going to be your relay box. And then off of that, you'll have a ton of extra wiring. You'll have all your leads and stuff. And then you're going to get a short power, and you'll have this long power. So this long power actually hooks up to the solenoid here. And then you have your short power in the kit, which is only going to be about 2 feet long, which is another reason I didn't use the factory bracket they sent me, because the power cord is only about 2 feet long, so you kind of have to be close to the battery. So this runs to your hot side of your battery. This is running out to the plow. This lead is the one that is snaked all the way through here to this, and that runs to the solenoid. So again, you got your solenoid power, which is actually just not, it's a dead line, and it is your power to your plow. And then this is actually your hot off the battery. So we've got it connected here to the battery. As I don't know if you can see that. It's kind of hard to tell because the way I wrapped all this stuff up. Let's see if I can kind of show that. Not really, I can't. It's back there though. And then for this side of your battery, this brown wire, no, sorry, where's that? Yeah, this brown wire, this guy over here is gonna have a big eyelet on it. That's ground to your battery. Or you could ground it, you really could go anywhere, but the battery's right here, so I ground it to the battery with your ground for the plow. So remember I said this goes to your solenoid on the right. This is your ground to the battery. This brown that is off the solenoid is in this wiring harness with this brown wire. The only difference between these two wires is this connector down here is going to be sized for a battery post. So that's how you know that this one is ground and this one is for the solenoid, because that one has a smaller eyelet on it. So as you can see, I have the brown wire that is not a ground on the small terminal. I have white and black on the opposing small terminal. And then as I said, this is power to your battery, and this solenoid terminal is running off the plow. So this big red one here is really long and runs all the way out to your plow. This is the short one that runs to your battery. So that's pretty much it. I don't have lights on this plow, as you can see, but if you have lights, here are your light connectors. And I labeled some of these because I knew they didn't have lights. I believe that is your parking light. And I cannot for the life of me. I forgot what that one is. But yeah, I don't have lights on this plow, so this is where your light adapters would plug into. I know Boss Plow makes light adapter harnesses, and so what I did there is I snaked that up out of this main harness, and as you can see, I ran the other headlight over to this side, and it's tucked in nicely by the airbox because, again, I don't have lights over there either. But it would be wireable as soon as I get something figured out, whether it's a light bar or whatever it is. I'll be able to mount it up because I have all the wires right up front. So as you can see, that's kind of how I ran it, and conveniently I have mounted some wires here and wrapped them up so they stay away from the hood. Keep an eye on that. You don't want your hood rubbing on any of this stuff. But if you'll notice in here, if you look at that new black conduit that's beneath the relay, that is actually the remote wires. And you can see that coming down. And right underneath the steering shaft here, I'm gonna turn my phone, right there, right back there is the hole in the firewall that I drilled. So that's under your steering shaft. There's nothing on the dashboard right there, and it's just to the left of that heat shield, so you should be good, and there's plenty of reach. So as you can see that back there, right under that steering shaft on that corner. So, and if you got a different Chevy, maybe like a 2010, because I know the mount is the same, but the firewall might be different, you should still be able to look in your interior and see that. So now I'm going to go around, we're going to go around to the interior, and I actually kind of show you kind of how I wrapped those in there. So you can actually shoot all these wires down, and you'll see that I have the biggest running all the way through there, and then it comes through right under that steering shaft like I was talking about. So I'll give you one more look at that, and then we're going to go around to the interior. It's almost hard to pick it up. It's right there though. Yep. So like I said, just to the right of that steering shaft, and probably about 5-6 inches under it. But I'll go around the front into the cab here and show you what that looks like. So not much in here is difficult. Okay, so I actually can show you really good. The hole is right there. So I can move the carpet out of the way. There's our hole. Okay, so I just literally went right through this plastic and right through the firewall. That was a inch and an eighth hole saw. Okay, so then obviously tuck your carpet back as best you can. Some guys will want to silicone that hole. I probably will get to that at some point. You know, this is a 300,000 mile truck, so if you're worried about making stuff a little bit nicer, obviously you can. It's kind of personal preference. And like you said, that shoots off the main harness, like you saw. And so I've looped it in here. It comes over here. We've got a little bit of, it pinched out of the way so we don't step on it while we're driving. And I've actually got it running this way for the controller, as you can see. So that part is easy. That's the easiest part of the interior process. Notice here I have 3 splits. 3 split off wires, and that is because one of those is going to be your power to your plow, and it's going to tell you that. It's going to have this little tag on it right here, and it says, it's hard for you guys to see that, but there's a tag on it that says must be run to ignition hot. And so what that means is basically when the key is on, this needs to have power. So what I did in this GMT800 2004 6 liter, so I went to AutoZone and I bought one of these dual fuse blocks, and I plugged it in to a circuit that runs with the key on. So whatever that is. And then all you do is it has a hot wire on it, and you will take that wire that's marked ignition hot and butt connect it into that. And that will give you power to your controller, which will operate the plow. These 2 leads are for your truck plow switch. I don't have that. Again, don't have lights on the plow yet. I don't really need lights on this plow. It's like for my driveway. And so, basically I've just wrapped these up as best I could, and I tucked them up in there. So that is pretty much it. I will go around and show you, once I wrap these up, what needs to be done to unmount the plow. So if you were going to unmount the plow, you would start the truck, and maybe I'll do this in another video with actual action, but you would start the truck and you'll notice that your remote has an on-off switch. Hit on and then detent push twice on this button and your remote will turn red. Red means that you have activated the smart hitch system up in the front. And so what you would do is, if you were disconnecting it, you would activate it to red, come up here, and you would flip this tab down. And then you would go to the other side and flip that tab down. Once you do that, you would hit the smart hitch button down, and it will pick the plow up off the truck. You may need a floor jack or a couple pieces of wood, a pallet, just to keep it up, so then you can back off of it. Reverse that process if you were attaching to it. If you were attaching to it, you would pull up to it, make sure you're at least lined up on your pins on both sides. This would be in the off position, so you would flip this to on, flip the other side to on, and then you would push up or down. I believe up. Yes, up. You'd push up to put it on, and it'll lean itself into the pin, and you'll physically see this pin push in and that pin push in, and then you know your plow is on. And so that's why, obviously, we're on the truck right now. Our tab is in the on position and the pin is in, and I cannot pull it out, and it has a safety, so you really cannot pull it out. That is basically it. Some guys think this wiring is really intimidating. I was one of those guys. I'm not a wiring guy. I'm not an electrician. I very rarely deal with wiring. I think I've rewired this trailer once, but just simple stuff like lights and stuff. So this to me was a little bit more intimidating, and I think I have about a day in the setup and it's functioning well. So no worries. I have about $2,000 in this. This plow it's an older plow, not super expensive. I think I paid $1,500 altogether with the controller, and then I have about $500 tied up in new wiring, and that, like I said, was a full kit. Comes with everything you need to know. And so that's it. It's all there. It functions left, right, up, down. That's pretty much all you need. Thanks for watching, guys.